you've ever asked yourself, how can I get the swing and the golf game that I've always imagined without trying every tip, every training aid, watching every video after video on social media, then this podcast is for you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the Imagen Golf Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Imagen Golf and PXG. Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome back. Today is a special day, and I don't even say that lightly. It's Sunday here in America, and this is for our Monday broadcast, our podcast, I should say, release, whatever you want to say. And Anthony Kim, aka AK, right? Imagine that, right? He just pulled off maybe the most incredible comeback in golf history. And that's not even conjecture. I'm not even kidding, man. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about this guy's story, but he hasn't won in 16 years. 16 years, right? And just when you say that out loud, that if that was the only piece of the story, that would be an amazing feat. But when you think about what this guy has been through, it's just amazing. All right. And whatever you think about, LIV Golf, you love it, hate it. It doesn't even matter. Right. He was one of the premier golfers, he was rookie of the year back in the day and just had an incredible talent, right? An incredible story. Honestly, I thought we'd be talking about this guy for 20, 30 years. And he absolutely just dropped off the planet. So we're going to talk about Anthony Kim and his incredible victory at Adelaide, if you would, in Australia. But welcome back to the Imagen Golf Podcast. It's always a pleasure. I think at Imagen, we prove every single day that traditional golf instruction just doesn't work. We prove that golf doesn't have to be that hard. And we prove that golf transcends life and is a great metaphor for life. So let's get into it, right? All right. So this episode isn't just about Anthony Kim, right? We talk all the time about, the mental game. We talk about, and I'm doing air quotes from a previous book title that I had, where Unleash the Golfer Within, right? We prove all the time that resilience, not just talent, right, wins in golf, and not only wins in golf, but wins in life, right? But we're going to talk about, again, arguably the greatest comeback story, definitely in modern history in our sport. And in case, if you haven't, looked at your television today or your news feed, this is going to be all over your news feed because it's just that crazy of a story, right? So I was glued to the television, right? And just on a side note, I've been a big supporter of LIV Golf, not necessarily as a breakaway from the PGA. That really wasn't it. It was just about, I thought golf could use another world tour. I thought that if these guys want to break away and do their own thing, that they shouldn't be penalized for it. So they are independent contractors, for crying out loud. So I didn't appreciate and didn't like the PGA's hard stand against them. And that's really has come full circle. And that's a whole nother podcast. But just for a disclosure, I have been a supporter of LIV and actually have worked with LIV over the years, if you would, as an ambassador and as a marshal at a couple of their events. So, but their most recent event is in Australia. LIV events start off in Adelaide, Australia. It's a big deal out there. If you don't think LIV gets a lot of fans, if you would, or coverage out there, you got to watch this tournament. But that's neither here nor there. But AK shot a final round of 63, right? That alone on the surface is just amazing. When you consider it's 3 shots better than Jon Rahm, right, who was staring him down the entire time, right, and a few more strokes better than Bryson, right, who is arguably at the pinnacle or top of his game, right? It's just an amazing feat, right? So we're going to break down how he did it, where he came from. We'll delve into some of the dark years that frankly, almost took us from us, right? He's very candid about, where he was and how dark, of a place he was. And most importantly, I think what we all can learn from this resurrection, for lack of a better, of Anthony Kim. So yesterday, right? Today is the 15th, right? So yesterday I don't, you know what? I'm not even sure the time change over there. But anyway, it's either February 14th over there or February 15th. This day will definitely go down in history, right? It's at I think it's called the Grange Club in Adelaide, Australia, right? Crowds again were electric, right? Maybe, or I mean, some of the loudest in golf. That's what they're telling me, right? And Anthony Kim, who 3 years ago, right? He did, when I'm doing some of the notes for this podcast, it was kind of funny, some of the bullet points. 3 years ago, he didn't even own a set of golf clubs anymore, right? 3 years ago. And now he's standing on the 18th green, just picking up a check for $4 million. I mean, it's just amazing. Again, if we just stop right there, it's just amazing. But if we look at some of the numbers, right, because they are absolutely staggering. He shoots a final round 9 under 63. He finishes 23 under par. All right. Now, not or like I just mentioned, I think he probably was staring down, now that I think about watching it. He was staring down Rahm more than vice versa. But he beat Bryson and Rahm, right? And he beat them by 3 strokes. The turning point, if you watch the tournament, right, is the back 9 where he goes birdie, 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 right? So he has 4 birdies in a row on some of the toughest holes on the course, 12 through 15, right? I mean, that's absolutely, some championship type of DNA, for lack of a better, right? And he drained 12, like a 20-foot putt, I think it was, on 12 to tie the lead, right? And he's on 12 now with 6 to go, right? 5 to go, excuse me. He has a fist pump going, right? And you could just tell, man, there was something going on here, right? You could start to see some raw emotion, right? And it was magical, for lack of a better. I'm going to watch it again just to really slow down and take it all in, because sometimes when you're watching it, you don't really get a feeling or get an understanding of really what you're watching. And I'm in that boat. Like I thought it was amazing that he was playing well. I had no idea on the planet, no thought, even in the remotest part of the back of my mind, that he was actually going to win. I actually thought he was going to melt down and Rahm or Bryson was going to win. But what do I know, right? After the round, it was kind of interesting. AK said something that kind of stuck with me. He said, and I think I'm going to quote this, right? He said, "No one else has to believe in me but me," unquote. And I think when you think about that for your own game, right? How often do you stand over like a 6-footer, right? Worrying, what you're going to do if you miss, all right? What your player partners are going to say if you miss, right? He stood over a putt to win $4 million and complete a 16-year journey on his way back, right? And I got to be honest, I saw him play on the LIV Tour up close and personal. Said hello to him, shook his hand, saw him in the clubhouse afterwards at a LIV event. Very cordial, very polite. He was crazy casual, dressed in almost like cut off shorts, it looked like, right? His T-shirt, that's right, he played in a T-shirt in the event I saw him on the first day, not even tucked in, all right? Wearing Nike Dunks, and just did look like a shell of himself. I actually even thought to myself, man, this guy should not be here, right? He's doing a disservice to himself and to the professionals out here. And man, was I wrong, right? I mean, if we were going to rewind, right, do a little rewind, right, for either the younger guys, younger listeners out there that haven't paid attention, right, those that are 35 and below probably, or those that just didn't pay attention or don't remember, you may have forgotten, man, just how good this guy was, right? Let me just call it out just a little bit, right? He wasn't just a golfer, right? He was, let's call it, for lack of a better, a cultural phenomenon, right? He was born in LA, right? Son of, I think, Korean immigrants. I could have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure Korean immigrants. His dad, super tough, right? Super traditional, brutal expectations, right? Made his son play golf because he was an amazing golfer, right? But it absolutely kind of forged, for lack of a better, a diamond in the rough. And in other words, he had so much pressure on him as a kid, and he lived up to that pressure. And almost a similar story to Tiger in a different vein, of course. But by the time Anthony Kim, aka, got to the University of Oklahoma, right, where he played his college golf. He was cocky. He was amazing. He was, I don't want to say arrogant, but, he was up to every challenge, right? He was starting to be, and social media wasn't nearly up to where it is today, but he was starting to be that kind of social media icon. He turned pro in 2006. And by, I think 2008, 2009, don't quote me on that, but within 2 or 3 years, he was definitely one of the coolest things in golf, right? When Tiger, was the corporate golf machine, if you would, right? AK was definitely this up and coming kind of street fighter, right? He won the Wachovia back then. They called it the Wachovia Championship, and he won the AT&T National in the same year, right? And he was only 23 years old, right? He had an amazing 2008 Ryder Cup, right? He goes out, right? He's super casual, that super kind of swashbuckling, cocky kind of attitude. He goes out and leads the single matches, right, against Sergio Garcia, who absolutely at this time was one of the, premier Ryder Cup guys, right? And he flat out said, like, he didn't want to just beat Sergio. He quoted, he said he wanted to embarrass him. And he did just that. He won 5-4, right? And I think for that, on that day in 2008, or that tournament, I think in 2008, I really honestly thought we were looking at, the next 20 years of maybe not dominance, not like a Tiger dominance, but dude, I thought this guy was going to be there for a very, very long time. If you haven't watched his swing or don't remember it, it's a very short, compact, kind of aggressive, I would call it, swing, right? He grips down on the club, right? I mean, a lot. He grips down on the club, every club, a lot. Something that, we tell our students to do for control, if you would, when you need it. He does it on every single solitary shot. He just lashes at the ball, man. He plays, pardon me, he plays with zero fear, or I should say he played with zero fear. And again, I just thought that we're looking at the next, whatever that is, the next in golf, right? And then 2 years later, 2010 happens, right? He wins in Houston. He finishes third at the Masters. And there was a time there where I thought he was actually going to pull it out, right? Masters isn't that long. He's got an amazing short game, and he was playing pretty well. He pulls out a third at the Masters. And it's right about then that the wheels start to, fall off, if you would, or let's call it at least wobble, right? And I think this is the part of the story that almost turns him into a legend or a myth, if you would. It's June of 2012, right? Anthony Kim just simply walks off the Wells Fargo Championship after withdrawing, right? And no big deal, right? He walks off, he withdraws. He was a little eccentric kind of character anyway, but he vanishes. Hey, Daniel here. If you're looking to get new clubs, you need to consider PXG. And I know what you're thinking. PXG is too expensive, or I'm not good enough to get fitted for clubs. And look, I'm here to tell you that neither is true. PXG is no more expensive than any of the top manufacturers out there, and everyone and anyone will benefit from getting fitted for clubs. And here's the best part. It's literally free. That's right. Getting fit at PXG is free. So when you're ready to get a new driver, new woods, new irons, or even a new putter, simply let me know and I'll help you get the swing and the game you've always imagined with a new set of clubs from PXG. Hey, we're not talking about a slump, right? We're talking about like ghosting, right? For 10, 11, 12 years, he is absolutely gone from golf, right? The rumors were everywhere. There was definitely some injury, right, in the rumor mill, for lack of a better. There was a rumor that he took an insurance payout for $10 million that required him to, never play again. And who wouldn't, right? If you're really hurt, you wouldn't blame the guy for taking $10 million, right? You have an insurance policy for a reason. People were saying that he was partying too hard. People were saying he lost his mojo. He lost his love for the game. There were drugs. There was all kinds of rumors going around there, and none of them were really substantiated. But the game and people, including myself, just moved on from him, right? I never thought we'd be talking about Anthony Kim again, right? I really truly didn't. And the truth is, truth is that we've learned since his return 2 years ago in 2024, a lot of that stuff was true. And it was even much darker and much more physical than what we thought or what the rumor mill was, right? I remember hearing he had an Achilles injury, right? It was way more than just an Achilles injury. He had a shoulder injury, right? A shoulder injury that required surgery, multiple surgeries. He had a hand surgery, for crying out loud, on his lead hand. He had a spinal fusion, for God's sake, right? I mean, this kid, and he was a kid back then, golf, had broken his body. He was definitely torn up, right? And then on top of that, he talks about the mental challenge that he went to. The toll was even worse, right? And he's been open about it, right? He battled addiction. He battled what he calls, and I'm doing air quotes, very dark demons, unquote. He flat out admitted that he was around the wrong people, making bad decisions, right? That he's had this spiral to where he was in a zero self-worth, right? And he said recently, again, I'm quoting, "I didn't have any self-worth until I became a father," right? Unquote. And this actually resonated with me because I can remember, look, no matter what you got going on in your life, positive or negative, when you have a kid, things change, right? Things change. And it's something that until you've been there, right? And see that kid for the very first time or start interacting with that kid for the very first time, it'll change you, man, right? It'll absolutely change you, right? And we see golfers on the range struggling like all the time, right? We see people throwing clubs, for crying out loud, breaking clubs. There's a guy in our local range here that you would think he has Tourette's with the level of cursing that comes out of this guy's mouth, right? He's actually been banned from a couple different ranges, but anger issues, right? And we're not talking about just when it comes to Anthony Kim, it wasn't just anger about golf, right? Yeah, it was anger about a lot of other things, right? And for AK, the game had become, I think, a source of pain. And he talked about this, that, he when he thought about playing golf, there was no more enjoyment to it anymore. So he just left, man. He didn't touch a golf club for over a decade, right? He didn't even watch golf, he says, and he certainly didn't care about golf, right? So fast forward, right, to early 2024, and some of these if you're in the golf business, these whispers start, the rumor mill, whispers, whatever you want to call them, right? LIV Golf announces a new wild card player, right? I remember the social media post, and there was a big picture of a question mark, right? Who's it going to be? And all of a sudden, there he is, Anthony Kim, in a pretty casual outfit, right? He's playing, and he's playing poorly. I mean, bad. If I remember correctly, he comes in dead last. I don't mean last. I mean dead last. I remember watching him. He looked really rusty. He looked like a guy that hadn't picked up a golf club in 12 years, right? Like a guy that didn't own a golf set of irons before he just got to the range today, right? And I remember, social media and the golf critics, man, blasting this guy, right? That he's just there for the money, that LIV is just rolling him out as a sideshow. And, this guy's washed up. He's embarrassing himself. And to be honest, I kind of bought into some of that for sure. Again, I saw him up close and personal, and he did not look like he wanted to be there. He did not look like he cared if he was there. And he certainly didn't look like he was going to win any money, right? So, yeah, it was a real weird dynamic, right? What was interesting, though, looking back, he didn't have that arrogant kind of cocky swagger in the 2008, 2010, or how everybody remembers him, if you would, right? So looking back, man, I think he may have had, maybe a plan, right? Maybe he didn't try to be, the old Anthony Kim that he was, if you would, overnight. And who knows, maybe that wasn't even part of the plan. I mean, I haven't talked to him yet. We're trying to get him on the podcast. That'll be amazing if we do, right? But I know he definitely adopted a new philosophy. He called it 1% better every day. And that's not new, right? To golf. A lot of people have said that. But this guy actually lived it, man. He grinded, man. He worked on his body. He talks about his sobriety. He doesn't drink anymore, right? He talks about stripping his ego down to almost nothing. Look, none of that's easy, man. To go from being a world top 10 player to shooting in the, low 70s, right, in front of the entire world, and probably could have kept it going, and then to go down and just absolutely blow it up. That's crazy, right? And when he won today in Adelaide, he wasn't playing with this reckless abandon. He didn't look like that kid, if you would, in 2008 and 2010. He looked like a chiseled, seasoned veteran. He was staring down two of the game's best. He was calm, cool, collected. He made a lot of clutch shots. He made a ton of clutch putts. He kept it in the fairway. I mean, everything about it, right, looked more like we were watching a 40-year-old veteran, father, of four, and he doesn't have four kids, but you get the point, the analogy, right? He looked like that type of individual, right? And we've all seen those individuals on the golf course, right? These guys that are seasoned, these guys that are chiseled, these guys that are time tested, battle tested, right? He looked just like that, but he wasn't, right? Until that day, he wasn't that guy, which is the biggest irony of all, right? He definitely credits his wife Emily and his daughter Bella to finding his why, like why he wanted to do it, right? And I think we can all, not only is it just an amazing, heartwarming story, and Americans in particular love these kind of comeback stories. I know I do, but I think there is a ton of takeaways, right? Not just golf takeaways, but life takeaways, right? For example, what is your air quotes that I'm doing? What is your why, right? Why? Let's talk about golf. Why do you play the game, right? There's got to be a reason, right? If you play it to impress others, as an example, you're probably going to crumble, right? I don't know that you'll get as dark as AK did, but you're probably, it's not going to be fun, right? If you play, though, because you love the challenge, right? If you play because you want to get better, because you enjoy it, if you enjoy the process of getting better, I think that's where some magic is, right? I know I've played amazing golf in my life, and I've also known that right now is a perfect time in my golf career where I'm not playing a lot and I'm not playing the best, but I still love the game. I still enjoy the game. I still love getting out with the guys. I still love playing with my son. I still love that my wife over 30 years is now starting to get into the game. I know I love the fact that my daughter has a passion for wanting to learn the game. So these are things that get me going, right? And that keep me going. But in AK's case, right? It was just that why. Like what made him, what was the drive that he had, right? And he talks about, like, he wanted to show the world, he wanted to, more importantly, show himself that he still had it, that through no matter what he's been through, right? How dark, the darkest days on the planet, right? Where he might even, thought about, taking his own life, for crying out loud. And here he is on top of the golf world again for the first time in 16 years, right? Look, his swing is still a swing. It's still compact, right? He still chokes down, all right? He's not as aggressive with the swing. His tempo is way smoother, right? He doesn't look like he's fighting it anymore. It looks like he's working with it, right? And again, it's on television today. It'll be on television for a long time. I think if you love American comeback story, if you love any comeback story, if you love golf, and if you love sports where the underdog wins, you've got to watch it, right? You've got to watch it. So let me leave you with this thought for your next round. Anthony Kim, AK, he was 5,795 days between victories, right? Think about that number, man, right? 5,795 days, right? There were days in that span where he probably couldn't even get out of bed. Days when he didn't like himself, days where he wasn't sure what he was going to do. By the way, he didn't have a job, right? In that time frame, right? So that's a pretty extreme example, right? And if we dial it down just a little bit, man, if you're struggling with a slice, or you can't break 90, or you have the yips, or you have the shanks, right? It's temporary. The only way, right, that you can't get past it or lose, right, is if you stop trying to get that 1% better, right? I mean, AK proved today that talent, right, doesn't disappear, right? It just hibernates. And we say that at Imagine all the time, right? Students will come in, longtime students will come in after a golf trip or after a golf round or whatever there, and oh man, I just lost it. And I say to them I look them right dead in the eye. I'm like, no, man, people don't lose it. They may forget it, but the people don't lose it. You don't lose how to ride a bike unless you had a head injury, right? And you haven't, right? So talent doesn't disappear, man. It just hibernates. If you get back to simplicity and clarity and get back to your process, we can bring it back. You can bring it back. And that's exactly what happened to Anthony Kim this weekend, right? On a much grander scale, right, than what I'm just talking about. I'm not trying to compare a slice with his life struggles, right? But if I say to people again all the time, if you coach the person and not the swing, right? And you fix that person, whether it's a mental thing, whether it's, a understanding thing around the golf game, whatever, you can fix the golf swing. It's not the other way around, right? So if you're frustrated with your game, right, let's do some self-reflection, right? Are you tense? Are you putting too much pressure on yourself? Do you even know what the heck you're doing, right? And are you trying to prove something to yourself? If you are, right, then let's go, man. Let's get it on. Let's find your rhythm. Let's find your gratitude. Let's find your why, right? And let's make you the best golfer that you could possibly be. I know I'm here to help. And whether I see you in person or virtually, I know I can help. But in closing, man, what a day for golf, right? Like I said when I started, whether you love LIV, hate LIV, I don't even give a shit if you love LIV or not, right? But it's an amazing story. It doesn't even matter. But if you're a fan of the human condition, if you're a fan of people overcoming odds, right, and that underdog story, right, then you have to at least smile for Anthony Kim today, right? It is an amazing story. I encourage you to get on your television, on YouTube, on whatever you do, and check it out, right? And until next time, keep it in the short grass. And remember, golf does not have to be this hard. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. All right, then. That's today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our site, imagengolf.com. Check out our YouTube page at Imagen Golf, and we're on all the social media platforms. I'm the same at Imagen Golf. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. You've heard all the golf tips. You've watched a million golf videos on keep your head down, turn your hips, check your grip pressure, you're swinging too fast, and frankly, it's overwhelming and just flat out noisy. So stop listening to the noise. Traditional golf instruction is way too complicated, and honestly, it isn't based on any facts, and it just doesn't work. At Imagen Golf, we clear the clutter. We focus on the simple, evidence-based athletic moves that actually work and stick. Experience the Imagen promise. If you don't get better in just one lesson, your lessons are free. So stop practicing your mistakes and start playing better golf today. Book your lessons at imagengolf.com, and golf better guaranteed.